Today I clean and install the Gearshift cable linkages. That's the reverse lever working at the engine end. At this stage I've only got the cable in place. Seems to be working nice and freely. So that's the reverse lever done. So that's the sequential gearbox lever in place. There's a mark on the end of the shaft there, vertical at 12 o'clock, that lines up with the groove. A similar thing on the reverse lever over there. You can see it in the background, lines up with the groove, so you know where the levers fit. This mechanism doesn't move much because the gearbox needs it's a fairly big spring in the gearbox. You got to work the clutch and shift the gear at once. That's why it's a longer lever here, and it's operated by the foot pedal down here, where you've got a bit more leverage on it to push and pull that cable. But that's cleaned up and gone in nice. I'm going to try the snorkel in next, because I know I've had trouble getting the snorkel in late. Got to dismantle half the stuff to get the snorkel in, so I'm just going to play around with that to get a better feel for what the deal with the snorkel is. This is just the stator cables, not tied up yet, hanging down in the way. That's the transfer case shifter in place. I can get a little bit of movement there. I don't know whether it's clocking into gear, but it's going through its motion. That cable appears at the top there like that. Now it takes a big S-bend right across the frame around to there. It's one that certainly gets in the way of the snorkel. You try to fit the snorkel. I tried to fit the snorkel just before, and even these first two, you got to sort of twist the snorkel sideways to get it, and spread those two cables here to get the snorkel to come slide in from the top and around to its positions. I'm going to work now on getting the control levers plate in place. But before I do that, you can see how this neutral switch in here starts to get buried amongst all this gear. I'm going to change that neutral switch across to one of my red ones, which has the gear selection position indicator on it. I'm going to do that before I do any more, because the cable for the gear, the sensor that's got the gear selection position, needs to run up underneath this rubber at the top as well to get up to the dashboards. Needs to be a 6-core cable run from the dash down under this rubber over to somewhere around here where the neutral connector currently connects into, where there'll be a 6-pin plug there, and that this 6-pin plug will, the neutral connector here will have a lead that comes across through there, up there, to where the 6-pin plug is. Last night I started printing 4 neutral switches. They appear to have printed correctly. I think it was about a 4-hour print. I've been making up neutral switches which have the functionality of telling you what gear you're in. Putting one of these on Abigail, and I'm going to do it before I mount the exhaust to try and retrofit it. After the bike's together can take quite a while. It's worth spending the time now and making up a neutral switch. I'm finishing off these neutral switches. There's 2 wires going to the neutral pin, because one will go to the conventional neutral circuit and the other one will go to the Gearshift selector plug. The cap I've printed hollows around the edge there to give clearance for the screws, and it has an archway there to span over the cable. This whole area internally here, now I'm going to put some epoxy resin in there to bond all that, and it'll bond the lid on at the same time. Pins on the outside there have been super glued in. They're all flush with the surface. I think I'll give that surface a slight rub on a bit of emery just to make sure it's flat and smooth. Well, I've finished my neutral switch with the added function of knowing what gear it's in. Heat shrunk a bit of the cable. The blue lead at the end there with the bullet connector goes into the conventional circuit and will work the neutral light. The 6 other wires there will go up to the dash and work the gear selection display. I haven't got a connector for there. I think this cable's long enough for it to stick out the right hand side of the bike so that I can put a connector on when it's fitted to the bike. Well, that's my red neutral switch installed. Does it remind you of red calipers on Brembo brakes or something? There's the lead coming down under the rubber from the dash, and here's the lead from the neutral switch, modified neutral switch, ready for those two to be connected when I get some connectors in. Blue wire is plugged into the bullet connector for the normal neutral switch operation. Now that that's done, I feel happier about fitting other things to this area because that was just going to get too difficult to work on. Well, this is the new carby kit that's just arrived. It's got the same label on it as the previous one I've purchased. I think if it's the same bits inside, I'm reasonably happy with that because I've had little issues with the previous ones. So I'll go through and just visually check that it's all there. Nice shiny float valve, needle gasket are the main parts I need. That little O-ring, I think the mixture jet is currently fitted with a used O-ring. Don't normally need the spring or the washer to go on the mixture jet. I won't even be using that mixture jet because the one that's in it is good. Gasket, needle jet body, needle jet, its needle itself, and that little O-ring are the main parts. The rest of the parts in here are jets that may not even be for my quad runner because it says it's a 97 to 99 kit. That doesn't worry me because there's no point changing jets if the jets are good. And this pecker jet there and the jet in the under the diaphragm, I can't get either of those out, but they're obviously clear because you can blow air through them no problem, and so no point getting them out, certainly no point changing them. That'll be about the 5th time I've had the carby apart. I'm making slow progress, but I'm getting there. Get out to your shed and have some fun.